All right, Shalom Aleichem. Welcome to our Wednesday class on Yalkut Yosef. We are still on the topic of Netilat Yadayim Shel Shacharit, the washing of the hands of the morning time. And now we're going to discuss someone that woke up in the middle of the night and had to go to the bathroom, and in his mind, he knew, I'm going to sleep right away. What's the din? What does he have to do with his hands? So let's see. הנאור בלילה לעשות צרכיו, ודעתו לחזור לישון מיד. He woke up at night and he wanted to go to the restroom and to go back to sleep right away. אם חושש שיקום מחר שיעבור שהוא מהלך פרסה, ייטול ידיו כדי לברך אשר יצא. If he's afraid that it's not just a sleep of a few minutes until the alarm clock goes off, but it's going to be more than an hour and 12 minutes. 72 minutes is a malach parsa. That's the time that they're talking about. If it's more than 72 minutes, then don't wait until you wake up to say Asher Yatzar and wash your hands properly. Wash your hands. What's the fear? What's happening here behind the scenes? A person that woke up in the middle of the night and he knows in half an hour I'm waking up. If I go, I wash my hands, I say Asher Yatzar, it may break my sleep. I'll lose this last half hour or whatever that I have. So maybe I can continue sleeping. So he says, if it's not half hour, if it's more than 72 minutes, then you cannot wait and do the Netilat, because once 72 minutes have passed, excuse me, you missed your opportunity to say the Bracha Asher Yatzar, and therefore wash your hands, say Asher Yatzar, then go back to sleep. But of course, the washing of the hands, we don't say Al Netilat Yadayim. The only time we say Al Netilat Yadayim is when we wake up with the intention that we are not going back to sleep anymore. So you wash your hands for saying the Asher Yatzar. ורק בקומו בבוקר יברך על הנטילה. And only when he wakes up in the morning, he washes his hands again, and this time he says על נטילת ידיים. ואם קשה לו ליטול ידיו במים, ינקה ידיו במידה מנקה. And if it's hard for him in the middle of the night, let's say the restroom is only in the basement, downstairs, and he's upstairs, and he's really going to bother him to go downstairs, wash his hands, and come back up. I don't know what situation it is where he can go to the restroom without washing his hands. Today, in every restroom, usually you have a sink. But assume that it's hard for him, or he's camping and he goes somewhere, but now to get water is going to be difficult for him. It's okay to just rub his hands against mile de menake, something that will make him more clean, like, for example, the sheets he's sleeping on or something like that. And that would be sufficient to say Asher Yatzar. And he can rely on the netilah of the morning that will perfect his hands in a cleanly manner to go to the tefillah. But for saying Asher Yatzar, if you don't have the water, then it's fine to just wipe your hands on something that you can get your hands clean. Okay. Another similar case. Someone wakes up at night and it's difficult for him to go wash his hands, but while he's laying down in his bed, he wants to start thinking about Chidushay Torah. He learned Yalkut Yosef, he loves the halachot, and on his bed, he looks at the ceiling, he starts thinking of all the halachot of Netilat Yadayim. Is he allowed to learn? Is he allowed to think about that? So he says he wants to learn without mentioning Shem Hashem, or he wants to, in his mind, just learn Divrei Torah without actually for saying, a holy name or something like that. He says you have something to rely on, that even though your hands have the Ruach Ra'av, the night on them, since you're not verbalizing Hashem's name, you're not learning out loud, and you want to learn Torah, you have something to rely on. But again, at least clean your hands against a blanket or something so that, somewhat of that ruach ra'ah, that evil spirit that is on your hands, leaves you. And all of this that we allow you to think about Divrei Torah without doing the Netilah is because you're still trying to fall back asleep. And you're only thinking about Divrei Torah until Hashem helps you to fall back asleep. Because that's considered not something that you're doing steady. It's like a by the way type of learning. So we allow that. But if you're supposed to wake up, but give me 5 more minutes in bed until I go do Netilah. I'm awake. I'm not going back to sleep. In the meantime, you're thinking about Divrei Torah. That we don't allow. Why? Because you're already knowing that you're getting up. So we're not going to use that thing that you can rely on to wipe your hands on something. You're getting up already. Go do it properly. He says, however, if you sleep in pajamas, I'm reminding you that back in the day, a lot of the times they would sleep without any clothing. So he's saying, if you sleep with pajamas with clothing, then you can say, I know my hands did not touch anywhere that is dirty, and I can testify that my hands are clean. If you're able to testify like that, then you are not obligated to clean your hands when you want to do the Divrei Torah. Right, so today, I don't know how many people can say, my hands did not touch Mekomot HaMechusim. Mekomot HaMechusim is anywhere that is usually covered, right? It's not just about a private area. It just some places that usually are covered, that maybe throughout the night there was sweat there and someone touched it and now it became, that's considered already a problem, right? But if you sleep, I don't know, let's assume full PJs, gloves, socks from head to toe and nothing touched anywhere, and there's more room for leniency. All right. Oh, Simon, I see you joined us as well. ברוך הבא. אף על פי שלכתחילה ללמוד תורה או לברך ברכה שהיא קודם נטילת ידיים של שחרית, even though you're not supposed to say a bracha or learn Torah before you do the netilat yadayim of the morning, because the Zohar HaKadosh, the holy book that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai wrote us, is very stringent about that. Mikol makom im shama kaddish u'kedusha. But if you somehow heard kaddish u'kedusha, imagine your house is back window to the kanisa, or there's a minyan in the hallway next to your apartment, and you hear they're doing now Kaddish or Kedusha, and you didn't do the Netilat Yadayim. Do you answer or do you not answer? Anybody want to think? What do you think? You answer the Kaddish or Kedusha? This is not just in your mind anymore. Now you're actually going to have to answer with words. Say Shem Hashem. Let's see. Okay, so he says. So let's see.
Yes.
And yes, no, Baruch Hashem, all the opinions are on the table. Now we're covered. Let's see. This is the term. If you have enough time, you see him starting Shemona Esrei, but he's not in Kedusha yet. You have time, go quickly wash your hands so you can say Kedusha after you wash your hands. But if you do not have enough time to wash your hands, you are obligated, not only allowed, but obligated to answer the Kedusha and the Kaddish. And why do we do that? We rely on the opinion of a few rabbis that are big rabbis, the Rambam, the Rosh, the Rashba, the Tur, the Shulchan Aruch, that according to all these opinions, that all the brachot of the morning, you can say them before you do Netilat Yadayim. According to, let's say this halakha, according to the simple interpretation of the Shulchan Aruch, when you wake up in the morning, you say Asher Yatzar, then you say Matir Asurim, Zokef Kifufim, you say all those berachot, and then after that you say Al Netilat Yadayim. Now, we don't do that today. We first do the Netilat Yadayim if we can, right? That comes first. But since that opinion exists, that the Netilat could come after all those brachot, what do we understand? That the Netilat Yadayim doesn't hold us back from saying certain brachot. And therefore, if you have Kaddish and Kedusha, which, halachically, that's the highest level of answering, meaning a lot of the things, do I have to answer Amen? Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo, there's only a small opinion about that, but Kaddish U'Kedusha is like the top. So of course, you're not only allowed, but you're obligated to answer that if you still haven't done Netilat Yadayim. ומכיוון שהקדיש הקדושה, שהקדיש והקדושה מצווה עוברת, and because these two mitzvot of answering the Kaddish and the Kedusha is a mitzvah עוברת. It's not a mitzvah that's going to wait for you and be there in a few minutes. It's not like catching a different minyan. The Kaddish and Kedusha that you miss right now, that you hear and you're not going to answer, are never going to come back. That specific Kaddish and Kedusha. So therefore, the mitzvah overet, you can't be strict upon yourself and prevent yourself from answering with the tzibur, because that type of stringency would lead to a problem. It would lead to a kula. You're missing out by saying the Kaddish just because you want to be strict on yourself. Chaval. וכל שכן שני אמן דקדיש ואמן דברכות. And how much more so he says, and answer amen on the Kaddish, amen on the ברכות. והמחמיר יוצא שכרו בהפסדו. And whoever is strict over here, you lose more than you gain. This is not a strictness that we recommend. What type of strictness do we recommend? Let me give you an example. Halacha is that if I have a cup of water and I want to pour on Shabbat some cranberry juice into my water, am I allowed to do that? What would be the problem? Some say, this is not halacha, some say that you are painting the water, tzovea. It's a melacha of tzovea to pour cranberry juice into your water. And therefore avoid it. Rav Ovadia says, no, that is not the halacha, we don't follow that halacha. En tzvi'a b'mashkim, there's no painting in liquids. It's food, but I'm going to consider it to be painting. I want to drink it, therefore you're allowed to. But got up the Ben Ish Chai, Ben Yosef Chaim, the great tzaddik from Baghdad, and he holds no. There is tzivya b'mashkim. There is a strict stringency not to paint in liquids, and therefore, according to his opinion, what do? You first pour the cranberry juice, and then you pour the water into that. So when you do that, you're not painting the water. The cranberry juice is what's existing. You're just adding to that existing color. That you flip the order, right? We don't have to do that. That's not the obligation. But if you want to be strict and say, you know what, let me do this because I also want to follow the opinion of a Ben Ish Chai, okay, you're not harming anybody by doing that. Change the order of the pouring into the liquid. It's not halakha, but if you want to do that, you want to follow Ben Ish Chai, okay. So we allow you to be strict, right? But in certain places, when you're strict, like over here, you're going to be strict, you're going to miss out. Oh, I'm not going to say Kaddish and Kedusha without doing Netilat Yadayim. You're missing mitzvot that are never going to come back. And therefore, he says, I don't recommend that. Answer the Kaddish and the Kedusha. But again, you're on the bed or wherever you are, just go like that. Make sure your hands get the bilya de menakes, some sort of cleaning so that, you're not completely, your hands don't have the ruach tumah on them, but even without netilah, it's sufficient. And again, he says, if you're sleeping with pajamas, which I think most people could say that they are, and your hands are clean, then you don't even have to do that hand rubbing process to answer the Kaddish and Kedusha. So that's kind of halakha for campers or someone that, I don't know, somehow, or maybe someone forgot to say in the morning in Netilat Yadayim, he was in a rush to go to Kanisa, he gets to Kanisa, and he hears that one minyan saying it, he says, oh my God, I didn't do Netilah at home. Should I run do Netilah or should I answer? Answer. First answer, go like that, clean your hands on something, and answer the Kaddish and the Kedusha. Hashomea kol re'amim. Now I heard thunder while I'm laying in bed. Ve'ein lo shiut lakum litoil yadav. And I don't have time to go wash my hands and say the bracha. There's a bracha, I don't know if you know, but there's a bracha that we say on thunder, and there's a bracha that we say on lightning. When you hear the thunder, you say shekocho ugvuroto male olam. When you see the lightning, you say Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam oseh maaseh bereshit. These are two brachot that we have to say. But if I heard saw the thunder, saw the lightning, and now I'm going to run, do Netilat Yadayim, it's already not going to be over le'asiyato. What is over le'asiyato? I think we've spoken about this before. When you see something happening, the bracha has to be tied to the action. You drink. You can't wait now 10 seconds and drink. It has to be quick enough. The lightning happens, and I go into Netilah, then I want to say the bracha. Obviously, more than 3-4 seconds passed, I can't say that bracha anymore, right? This is also a mitzvah overet. It's a mitzvah that's going to run away and not going to come back. I'm going to miss out, all right? Or even if it's difficult for him he sees that there's like a lot of these thunders going on right now, thunderstorm, whatever it is, but it's difficult for him to get out of bed and wash his hands right now. So what about this bracha? What does he do? So again, rub your hands on the blanket and say the bracha right away. B'shem u'malchut. Don't say like I'm saying now, Baruch atah Hashem. Say Baruch atah and then say Hashem's name. Say the full bracha, b'shem u'malchut, close to the hearing of the thunder. He says there's an opinion by the Kaf HaChaim that says that you only have to imagine this in your mind. Don't actually say the bracha, but actually in your mind say saying it in your mind, according to the Rambam, is actually like saying the bracha. But that's not all the opinions. So the Yalkut Yosef is saying, if you're going to follow that opinion of the Kaf HaChaim and just have it in your mind, you're missing out on actually verbalizing Hashem Hashem and getting the bracha to full extent, according to other opinions. Therefore, he doesn't recommend that. You're allowed to do that. Wipe your hands on something and say the bracha to not miss out. Now what happens if you don't have water to do the netilah, 3 on each hand, right? You don't have enough water. He says, okay, what I'm going to say, I'm not learning Torah today. There's no water. I'm in the desert. Let me chill. No, he says, don't. Whatever you have, even if it's a few drops, use it, or clean your hand on a blanket or something like we said before, and then start, say Birkot HaShachar, say Birkot HaTorah, and learn Torah and learn Poskim, and no problem. Don't let the netilah prevent you, keep you back from learning, even if you just have a little bit, whatever it is. And also, if you know the water is coming later, still, I'm gonna wait now an hour and miss out on shacharit on time, missing out on learning Torah, missing out tefillin. He gives this example here. You could wear your clothing without doing the netilat yadayim, and start your day of tefillah. Now, there's a comment here that I marked that I would like to read to us about someone that doesn't have water and he shouldn't keep himself from learning. So let's say he brings here the Shulchan Aruch on the bottom. He says, Shulchan Aruch katav, lo tiknu netilat yadayim ela lekriyat shema v'tfilah. The netilat yadayim initially was brought just so that someone could read Shema and Shemona Esrei. That's really why you need the netilat yadayim. אבל ברכות שחרית יכול לברך קודם הנטילה. But ברכות השחרית, the rest of the ברכות that we have in the tefillah and ברכות השחר, you could say them even without netilah. It's not a problem. The only thing that you really need the netilah for is the amidah. אלא אם כן ישן על מיטתו ערום, unless he's sleeping on his bed naked. If he's sleeping on bed naked, then you have to clean your hands, because we really have a fear that your hands touch places that are covered. But if you can assume that your hands were cleaner, that's not a problem, and therefore don't miss out on learning Torah at this time. All right, continue with the Yalkut Yosef. וכל שכן שמותר ללמוד עם קטנים שדרכם ליגה בנעליהם. You have children, and now you're going to be smart. I don't have water, so I'm not going to teach my children now halacha or Torah. Well, don't miss out. Children here, this is important. Even though forget about you. If the child didn't do netilah, what if the child didn't do netilah today? I'm going to say, I'm not going to teach you Torah. Your hands are not clean. No. קטנים שדרכם ליגה בנעליהם. Children, it's their way. They touch their shoes. They touch their sneakers. After you touch your shoe, you have to wash your hands. They don't do that, children, right? No. Still, you could learn Torah with them, no problem. But try to teach them. Try to teach them that whenever you touch your sneakers, your hands become impure, and therefore go wash your hands right after, or at least try to just touch the shoelace. If you just touch the shoelace, then there's no problem. You don't have to go and wash your hands. But the actual fabric itself, that's where the problems begin. Oh, he's going to mention the halacha that we said about sleeping with gloves. If you're sleeping with gloves, even according to the Zohar HaKadosh, which is, as we said before, the more strict opinion on having to do the netilah in the morning, he says, mutar lo min hadin levarech. You're allowed, according to the strict opinion, to still say brachot and learn Torah even before the netilat yadayim, because your hands were protected. And the evil spirit, even though not, okay, so there are two things. There's something physical that you touched and made your hands dirty, but there's also the night, the ruach ra'ah, right? The ruach ra'ah itself, without touching anything, still brings something upon our hands, right? Because if someone slept like this all night, so he's not going to do netilah in the morning, you have to, because the ruach ra'ah still came on you, right? So he says, yeah, but it's not a lot. It's a much lower level, and hopefully soon we'll see a comment on that. וכן היה עושה מעשה הגאון מרבי זלמן מווילנה. The Rabbi Zalman מווילנה, he says that that's what he would do. If his hands were clean, then he didn't have to, or he slept with gloves, therefore he didn't have to do the netilah in order to learn Torah. It's okay, you could learn Torah freely. ובמקום שאין מים מצויים, נכון לעשות כן כדי שיהיה אפשר לקרוא קריאת שמע ולהתפלל. And he says, if you're in a place that you know you're not going to have water, so it's the wise thing to do is to sleep with gloves, to put a shirt on your hands, whatever, sleep like that, so that when you wake up in the morning, you could pray even the Shema and the Amidah, not just all the brachot. When you do that, then you're covered. But of course, if you have water, even though you covered your hands, obviously you have to wash them. He says here in parentheses, why? Because when you wake up from your night sleep, it's not just that the night brought something upon your hands, and it's not just that the dirt, maybe the sweat went on your hands. But one opinion says the reason why we do the netilah is because you are a briyah chadasha. A briyah chadasha is like a new creation. When we slept, we know we gave our neshama back to Hashem. It came back to us in the morning. That's why we say, Elokai neshama shenatata bi Torah, ata berata. You created my neshama, ata etzata, ata nefachta bi. You put it into me. And you will bring it back to us in the future. Now, part of the neshama left, so we're like a new creation now. The neshama came back into us. New creation, before it does anything, you should wash his hands. So even though your hands were clean, obviously you need to wash them if you have the water. So don't say I slept with gloves. Even though I have water, I'm good. No. Wash your hands according to that opinion. He says, ideally, try not to touch any foods. Let's say you're making sandwiches to your kids for school, which yours truly, and I'm sure many of you had that experience. So you're in a rush, you didn't go to shacharit yet, I don't know what happened, and now you're making the sandwiches. Of course, don't touch any bread or food or fruit until you yourself do the netilat yadayim. And also be strict on your children. Try to make them do netilah before they touch the food that they're eating. Because even with children, ideally, he says ideally you should do netilat yadayim for the children. People have little kids, 2-3 years old. What do they do netilat yadayim? What do they control their hand? It's good. It's a recommendation. Take for them. You don't need so much water, right? Even a small cup. You 1, 2, 3 on their cute little hands. That's it. Now their hands are clean. Let them touch the food, the bread, whatever they want. He says, as I mentioned in the past, it's a good thing to get the children accustomed to this mitzvah. You don't have to wait till they're bar mitzvah. From a young age, your hands need to be pure. When a Jew sees, you look at Jews around the world in many places, they're always washing their hands. They go into the bathroom, they want to do netilah, they wake up in the morning. We wash our hands much more than other people. It's a cleanliness thing. You teach a Jew, look at us, we're always pure. We always keep it. From a young age, get that into the child's mind that he's different. He has to, then he carries himself differently. Look at me. I'm not like, I have to be clean. I have to be pure. A different mindset that the child gets. You're not allowed to touch the holy books. You want to touch the Gemarot, you want to touch the Tanakh. No, do netilah, and then touch them. Oh, this is a good question. Now I have a Jewish bakery. But these guys, you see on them, they're not keeping Torah mitzvah. The bakery is, of course, kosher. It's closed on Shabbat. But the workers there, you know them. They're not Shomer Shabbat. They don't do netilah. They don't do this. How can I assume that they did netilah? And they're touching all the bread with their hands. So am I allowed to buy from a bakery like that? Again, the ruach tumah is on their hand, and it definitely touched the bread. What do? He says, "Mutar liknot lechem mafa shel Yehudim." You're allowed to buy that bread. Mutar liknot tzarchei ma'achan bal chnot chiloni, and you're allowed to buy other foods from someone that you can tell him that he's not religious, he's not washing or whatever it is. Because even though I assume that he doesn't wash his hands, really, it's lekatchila. For the beginning, for the strict opinion, we don't touch the food until we wash our hands. That's lekatchila. That's to begin with. But if someone already went and touched the bread, or someone already went and touched the food, then we don't prevent you from eating that food. It's just a stringency lekatchila. That's the right way to do it to begin with. But if it already happened that someone touched it, I'm going to say, put this bread in the garbage, right? So he writes a comment here about this bakery thing. He brings again the Bet Yosef. The Bet Yosef, so we have the Shulchan Aruch. We all know the Shulchan Aruch. That's the book of Halacha that Yalkut Yosef is basically based on, of course, throughout all the rabbis and his father, Rabbi Ovadia Yosef. But the Shulchan Aruch is really a summary of a book that took the Bet Yosef 31 years to write. And after he wrote a book for 31 years with all the ideas that he wants to bring to Halacha, he says, this is too long. I can't give this to the Jewish people. I want people to learn my book every month. Instead, I'll make it smaller. I'll call it Shulchan Aruch. That's why it's called Shulchan Aruch. It's a set table. It's not that big, long table anymore. It's something small. It's something set so that, this is what he says, so that every Jew could finish this once a month. Once a month finishing the Shulchan Aruch to him was the shorter version. Yeah, if we in our lifetime finish Shulchan Aruch, a lot of points in Gan Eden. But that's how the Shulchan Aruch saw it. So that longer book is called the Bet Yosef. And in the Bet Yosef, he says like this, the yad legit tiktzatz haynu mipnei hefsed hasachar velav mishum ruach ra'a. Meaning, ממילא אוכלים שנגעו בהם קודם נטילת ידיים שחרית, אין לו אסרם. He says, food that you touched before shacharit, you're not supposed to prevent people from eating it because there's a loss of money. וכן אלא הגאון ארצות. So he brings another opinion, and even there's an opinion by the Rambam that today all this ruach ra'ah, all this evil spirit that dwells on the hands, it's not like it used to be. In the time of the Gemara, you hear stories, they had certain things that were different. Over here today, the level of that evil spirit doesn't dwell as much, and therefore, don't be so strict. If someone touched the bread, of course, eat it. Don't let the Torah is merciful on Jews' money, on our pockets. Someone touched the bread that didn't know they were going to have to throw it out. So that's what the Bet Yosef says, and of course, we rely on that. Right? Any comments? Let's go back to the Bet Yosef. How are we doing? Oh, a couple of minutes. Let's get in one more halacha. V'ezrat Hashem. Ma'achalim שידוע בבירור שנוגע בהם קונטנט שחרית, some food that I know 100%, I saw with my own eyes, someone woke up right out of bed and touched it with his hands. אם הם דברים יבשים, if it's something dry, let's say it's an apple, he says like פירות, and you can wash them in water, so wash the fruit 3 times, go under the water with the fruit, 1, 2, 3, and then the same thing like your hands, now the fruit got that removed from it. ומאכלים ריקים שאי אפשר לשתותם, but if it's a soft item like bread or drink, when I'm gonna pour my bottle of Coke into water, what am I gonna do? This is מן הדין, יש להתירם בדיעבד. And therefore we allow these b'diavad. Again, if it already happened, like we try to prevent that. But if it already happened, we allow v'kol sheken im nagu b'yeladim ktanim. And how much more so if it was little children that touched this bread or touched this drink, and we're not able to wash it now. יש להקל בזה יותר. ומכל מקום. But if you want to be strict, המחמיר שלא לאוכלם, תבוא עליו ברכה, כי אין בדבר הפסד מרובה. If you want to be strict, you are allowed to, because there's not a lot of loss here. Let's say it's just, I don't know, a couple of grapes, a small fruit. How much am I going to lose from this? Oh, you want to be strict upon yourself. We're not going to tell you, shame on you, you're being strict, you're burning money. It's a small amount, we're not so strict on that. But once it's already a loss of money, something that's meaningful, it depends on the person. It could be for a person, an apple is very meaningful for him, and for another person, not so much, right? So it depends on the person. But when it means nothing to you, okay, you're allowed to be strict upon yourself. But if it has value to you, your stringency is just going to cause a problem. Actually, we have time to read a comment by Rashi. He brings a comment here by Rashi. And what does Rashi say? רוח רעה השורה על ידיו כשנוגע בעיניו מסמא אותו, וכן כולן, עיין שם. There's a Rashi that says that this ruach ra'ah that dwells on our hands at night, if someone touches his eyes, it makes him blind. Rashi, he lived 1,000 years ago, we're not less, and we're not talking about something so, all right? This is what Rashi says. לפיכך הוכיח במישור המהר"ם בן חביב, שבזמן הזה שאותותינו לא ראינו, שמע מיני שבטלה רוח רעה. מהר"ם בן חביב says, if Rashi says that interpretation on the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat, what do we understand? Well, it's not right to say that Rashi saying this and he lived 1,000 years ago, because Rashi is giving this as a comment on the Gemara. But maybe even in Rashi's time it existed more. But the Maharam ben Chaviv says, from this comment of Rashi, what do we learn? That it was actually physical. Someone that did not touch his hands and would touch his eyes, he would become blind. It was a physical thing. You could see it, meaning the Ruach Ra'ah was dwelling in a way that people felt its effect. And therefore, back then we were so strict. But today, how many people are not religious, are not into any Torah, they never wash their hands, they're not aware, they touch their eyes, they touch food. Something happened to them. Therefore, says the Maharal ben Chaviv, something must have changed throughout the nature. Throughout the years, Hashem creates something and the nature changes. The nature has changed with that evil Ruach Ra'ah, and therefore we don't have to be so concerned about it today. And therefore we allow, in certain cases where there's loss, or as we mentioned before, to be merciful on the money of the Jews and not have to throw out that food. All right, I think we're going to stand here, gentlemen. Yizkula mitzvot, have a Shabbat Shalom, Chanukah Sameach, B'ezrat Hashem, we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Z.
Bye.
Bye.
B'ezrat Hashem.
Thank you.